Hey everybody, it's Jason here. I am here at the March for Medicare For All at the intersection of Hollywood and Highland. Actually right across the street from the El Capitan Theater, in front of the Dolby Theater where they do the Academy Awards. I did an interview with Daniel Lee. He works with Move to Amend, trying to end corporate personhood. All right, I am here at the Medicare For All March. And I am proud to say hello to Daniel Lee, who's been very active in Move to Amend. And can you tell us why you are here today for the Medicare For All March?
Well, the March for Medicare for All is very similar to our Move to Amend work. What the organizers are really trying to do is take corporations, and specifically health insurance companies, out of our healthcare. So it's not dictated and monetized. With Move to Amend, we're focusing on amending the Constitution to say very strictly, corporations are not people and money is not free speech. I think both of these issues are incredibly connected. One of the reasons I got involved with Move to Amend is because I was very passionate about the environment, but every time I looked into one particular case about an oil field or an oil derrick or some type of other environmental degradation, at the end of the line there was a corporation holding up progress or polluting people of color, polluting poor people in California and around the country. You can see the same thing with health insurance companies and the monetization of healthcare. We pay the most of any developed country in the world for our healthcare, and we get the least results as a result. The cost-benefit ratio is incredibly off. If we had Medicare for All, people could start thinking about spending their money on the things that make them happy. People could spend their money on rent and not have to worry so much. People could, enjoy their lives and be healthy and not have this pattern of illness, which our health management system, it's not really a healthcare system, sort of keeps you trapped in. So Medicare for All, I think, is essential. Many of the other developing countries in the world have had universal or single-payer systems since the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. It's a shame that the United States doesn't.
Yeah, it seems that every country in the world, actually, that has running water and traffic lights has found a way to provide universal health care to its citizens just as a human right. Why do you suppose that in America that's so hard to do?
Well, I think in America we're really at sort of the apex of corporate capitalism. We're the place where oftentimes, or almost all of the times, the rights of business and property rights are held above the rights of humans, which is why we don't have healthcare as a human right, because healthcare as a human right, frankly, would endanger the bottom line of not just the insurance companies, of private hospitals, of a lot of intermediaries and middle management, pharmaceuticals, exactly. So there's a lot of money to be lost. And in the United States, more than any country in the world, aside from maybe China, there's a real focus on profit at all cost, shareholder, sanctity, and really corporate power.
There's a belief generally among the American population that Medicare is a right for anybody who's 65 and over, and we tend to hold that sacred. But what do you say to the naysayers about Medicare for All who say that if you give Medicare to someone who's 64 or 54 or 44, that suddenly we become a communist nation that's going to collapse like Venezuela?
Well, one, I would say, get a dictionary, look up communism, maybe buy a couple books. What I often like to say to people is the more healthy our community is, the healthier we are as a country. If we can give people better health care earlier, at the end of our lives, and humans are living longer and longer, we have more and more complex diseases. If we start treating those things in a preventive way, we save money for the entire healthcare system. We save money on emergency ambulances. We save money in incalculable ways. For me, the argument about, pushing back the age of Medicare so you can get it younger, it's a great start, but we should start talking about, pushing that back to zero, because there are a lot of things that manifest in people throughout their lives, kids in their teens, adults, whether they be hereditary diseases or mental health illnesses. These things can be prevented and monitored in a universal system. One of the things I like to highlight is universal health care includes universal mental health care. And on the flip side, there are a lot of things that Medicare leaves out, like eye insurance and dental insurance. And as you age, I don't know, your teeth go through a lot more, you know, you need a lot more work. I know how I have as I've aged, and your eyes need a lot more work as well. So that's a lot more money coming out of your pocket, endangering your ability to save and your ability to pay your rent or pay your mortgage. So it's not a communistic concept to want everyone to do well. And at some point, we wanted people to do that. I think we've just been tied up in too much of a market ideology where the only way people can do well is if a big corporation is the reason. I think we can do well by helping out each other.
You talked about your work with Move to Amend to end corporate personhood. It seems like since the Citizens United ruling that society has somewhat been engineered so that the shareholder is the most important thing in this country. It's something that I actually really detest, because there used to be a time when you used to hear the phrase, the customer is the center of whatever it is we're doing, but it seems like in every business that's run by a corporation, the shareholder is the customer is a commodity, and the employee is this evil, deadweight, horrible cancer on the company's bottom line, and we must do anything we can to eliminate those horrible, awful workers who create our profits, because we only owe our allegiance to the shareholders. How do we work to possibly reverse that terrible, terrible societal angle?
Well, I think the first step is admitting like the ideology and really the propaganda that we've been sold. For a very long time in this country, we have demonized and almost made it illegal to be poor, while simultaneously increasing income inequality. So if there's any problem that you have with your finances, it must not be the bosses, it must not be the corporations, it's that other person who's also struggling that's bringing you down. And it's a, you know, it's a typical divide and conquer. I think the first step towards really getting to where you want to go is actually amending the Constitution, because, you know, shareholder sanctity, you know, it was given some gas with Citizens United, but, you know, it harkens back to a ruling that I think is about 50 or 60 years earlier than Citizens United, and it's something that's been, you know, the fiscal responsibility of any corporation, even if they're not a bank, to make as much money as possible for their shareholders. That's their number one priority by law. But the law is something that we can change. The Constitution is something that we can change. Just because the way things are seems anti the values that many of us as Americans hold, doesn't mean that's the way that they will be going forward, and it doesn't mean that we can't change them.
If people want to follow the important activism that you partake in and that you have been a leader on, how can they stay attached to what you're doing and the causes you're involved with? Sure.
You can follow Move to Amend at movetoamend.org, movetoamend.org, or at Move to Amend on Twitter. You can follow me at Daniel Wayne Lee 0, DanielWaynelee 0, or you can follow my Facebook page. It's Dr. Daniel Lee, DSW, MSW.
Thank you very much for talking with me today, Daniel. Appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching.